Okay, so let's continue on and look at comparators and also if-then statements and how they work. So if you think about comparators, what we're looking at is can we look at one variable compared to another and see whether it's equal to, not equal to, and different things like that. So what you currently see on the screen there is some of the different comparators that we would want to use. So obviously less than and equal and greater than are pretty easy to understand. Equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. If you're looking at equal, notice you have double equality. And so what that means is when you use just the equal sign, what it's trying to do is take whatever you have there and make it equal to the other. So if you come and, if you think about this, let's go back up to an example. When I did day equals 5, what I'm doing is I'm setting the variable day equal to 5. And so that's not a comparator, that's actually creating a variable. So if I instead did this, now what I'm trying to do is see if the variable day is actually equal to 5. And if I don't have the 2 there, then it forces the 5 to become day, if that makes any sense. So that right there means that day will now equal 5. And with 2 equal signs, it's comparing to see if day equals 5. And then what happens is it gives you a true or false. And you see how it gave me a true because I've already set day equal to 5. Now, that brings up a very good point. As you're doing different Jupyter notebooks, if you set something equal to it, so I set the variable day equal to 5, it's always set to that. So that means anywhere I use it, it will be 5. Anytime I say day, anywhere in this notebook. If I change it to a 7 and I go back up to the top, day equals 7 at that point. So it's always what it is at that moment, at that time. So anyways, we'll talk a lot about that in class, hopefully, but I thought I'd just mention that here. So let's go back to comparators. And when we're looking at 2 being less than 3, we obviously know that is true. And so anytime you're doing a comparator, what you're trying to do is find out a true or false answer. You see how we do have that 2 is double equal to 3. We know that that's actually false, and it gave us a correct answer. And you can see that it gives us, you can't sign to a literal. What does that mean? You can't assign 3 to 2. Now, if this was, again, variable 2, now I can do that. And so I can now come in here and say, let's add a B. So if I was to type variable 2, you see how it is equal to 3. If I now did variable 2 to find out if it's equal to 2, what am I actually doing there? I'm actually setting variable 2 to 2. And go ahead and show you what I mean. I feel like I just said the word 2 way too many times, but you now see that it's equal to 2, and it was up here. Now, if I come in here and say var 2 double equal 3, I should get a false answer because it's actually equal to 2 at this point. Okay, hopefully that makes sense on the differences there. If I say less than or equal to, you can see that that's true as well as that one. If I were to set this, I'm going to actually make this a 9, let's say, here, just so that it's a completely different one than I was playing around with before. There we go. And if I say var underscore 9 equals 2, because var 9 has not been created, it throws me an error. And you see how it says is not defined. Let me tell you something that'll really help you out. It'll throw an error where there's 20 different lines. The only one that usually matters is the bottom. And I make that point because I always have students that copy and send me screenshots and never show me the bottom of the error. And so there you go. That's usually where it'll tell you what the actual problem is. Okay, first thing I have to do is set it equal to 2. So now when I do it, you see that that is set to true. So var 9 is equal to 2. If I set x equal to 3, and now I'm going to compare x to var9, and so I'm comparing two different variables. It should set off and be true because right now x is equal to 3 and var9 is equal to 2. Now I'm going to show you again. If I was to go in here and say var9 equals 9, what is that going to do? Well, that's setting var9 to 9. And if I came back up here and re-execute this line, what is going to be the value? Is it going to be true or false? Well, let's think about it. X right now is set at 3. var9, is it a 2 or is it a 9? Well, the last time it was executed, it made it a 9. Therefore, you notice it's false because var9 is set to 9 at this point. If I came back up here and executed that, now what is the value of var9? So if you understand what I'm trying to get at is, it's always the last time it was executed. So at this point, var9 is actually 2, and now you see how it sets it to true. Okay, let's get into comparing strings of characters. And this will always go in alphabetical order. So Andy will always be before Carly. So Carly will not be before Brian. So C compared to B. And then let's take a look at what happens when we try to look at 3 compared to Carly. Again, it doesn't like mixing strings and integers. But if we set 3 to be a string, numbers come before alphabet. So you would then get a true statement in this case. So think of 0 through 9 strings will always come before A through Z. All right, and now let's get into the and, the ors, and the nots. When you look at something being true and true, obviously in that case, what we're saying is, does it meet both criteria? Does true, something is both, but it can't be true and false at the same time. Notice I did not capitalize the true here. And so it's going to throw me an error because true, it's thinking that true is a variable which has not been defined. Let's take a look at more ands and ors and then nots. X equals 12. Let's do that. So right now x equals 12. And what I want to do is see if x is greater than 5 and less than 15. And the answer is true because it falls between the 5 and 15. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm changing it from 15 to 10. And in this case, it's going to be false because 12 falls outside of that 10. But if I were to say or, it's going to be true because it just has to meet one of those criteria. So the word and means when you have two different criteria, it has to meet both. If it's the word or, then it has to meet one or the other. So true or false in that case is always going to be true, always going to be true when you use the word or. And then when we say not, therefore we're just talking about the complement of, or in other words, the opposite. And so not true is always going to be false, not false is going to be true.